Evening traveler. Pull your chair in a little closer to the iron stove and let the late-night valley breeze settle down outside against the logs. My name is Sheriff Silas, and after spending all these years wearing a silver star on the frontier, I have come to realize that the trickiest puzzles are rarely solved by tracking a desperate outlaw across 100 miles of open prairie. More often than not, they are solved right here in our own backyard by paying close attention to the small inconsistencies in a neighbor's story. Take what happened over at Juniper Creek just last autumn when the valley was preparing for the annual livestock auction and everyone was keeping a sharp eye on their corrals. A smooth-talking stranger passing through town had set up camp near the dry creek bed, and within 48 hours the prized breeding stallion belonging to old man Abernathy vanished clean out of a locked paddock without a single sound or broken fence rail. Naturally, the townspeople were ready to grab their ropes and form a posse before the sun even crested the ridge. They were convinced the traveling stranger was a horse thief who had slipped across the county line under cover of darkness. But in my line of work you never hang a man's freedom on circumstantial suspicion and hasty prejudice. I told Abernathy I would walk down to the paddock myself and examine the ground before we started rounding up strangers, because truth is a quiet thing that leaves behind its own footprint if you know how to look for it. When I stepped into the paddock, the morning frost was still sparkling on the dry autumn grass, and the wooden fence rails were as solid as the day they were pegged together. Abernathy pointed out that the padlock on the gate was entirely untouched, and the iron latch had been securely dropped into place from the outside just like it always was every night. Now a traveling stranger passing through for the first time wouldn't know the exact trick of lifting that stubborn iron latch without rattling the heavy oak gate and waking up the watchdogs. More importantly, I noticed something peculiar about the tracks leading away from the corral toward the dry creek bed. While the horses' hoofprints were deep and clear in the damp mud, the shoe impressions didn't match the heavy iron pattern worn by the missing stallion. The shoe prints belonged to an older draft horse with a rounded toe and a cracked left heel, exactly like the old mare owned by Abernathy's own nephew Luke, who helped manage the upper pasture. When I rode up to Luke's cabin halfway up the timber ridge, I found him sitting on his porch whittling a cedar shingle with a calm expression on his face. When I asked him about his whereabouts the previous night, he didn't stumble over his words or reach for a weapon. He simply laid his pocket knife down on the porch bench and invited me inside for a cup of black coffee while the mountain morning mist slowly cleared from the pine trees. Luke didn't run away, and he didn't try to hide anything, because he knew as well as I did that secrets have a short shelf life on the frontier. He admitted right then and there that he hadn't stolen his uncle's prize stallion out of malice or greed. He had borrowed the animal in the middle of the night to ride out to the high plateau because he had secretly traded for a superior breeding mare from a rancher across the mountains, and needed a reliable mount to lead her back down the steep switchbacks before the auctioneer arrived. He had planned to return the stallion before dawn, but a sudden rockslide across the upper trail had delayed his return by several hours, forcing him to take the long detour through the lower river valley. He figured that if he told his uncle the truth right away, old man Abernathy would blow his top and accuse him of risking a valuable animal over a private trade without asking permission first. We spent a good hour talking through the details while the coffee pot warmed on his iron stove, and I explained to him that honesty always saves a man twice the trouble of a cover story. We rode back down to the ranch together, leading the stallion behind us, and when old Abernathy saw his prize animal trotting smoothly into the yard, the fire went right out of his eyes. Luke owned up to his mistake like a man, and his uncle realized that while a secret trade was foolish, no real theft had ever taken place. They shook hands right there beside the feed troughs, clearing the air before the morning auction even began. You see, partner, people often think that solving mysteries requires a fast gun and a loud voice, but more often than not it is just about checking the shoe tracks, keeping a cool head, and refusing to let family pride or hasty rumors cloud your judgment. The fire in the stove is burning low, and the stars are shining bright and clear over the frontier ridge. Until our next case file is open, keep your ledger clean, your heart steady, and your dealings honest. Good night, partner.